go to next, because protesters were told to leave Cambridge City Council's meeting yesterday evening shortly after this petition to move the Lion Yard loos was handed in. Let's speak to Richard Taylor, who went along to observe the meeting and joins us here on the Cambridgeshire Breakfast Show. Morning to you, Richard.
Hi, good morning, Jeremy.
You went then in an observing capacity as opposed to protest, did you, Richard?
Yes, I did, and so did quite a few other people. The protesters were really only a small group of people who were in the public gallery. There were a few people who'd gone along, especially to look and listen to the council's response to this 10,300-person petition. There were all sorts of other people up there as well. People who are planning to stand for councillors, to be councillors in May. There were some party activists, and there were some students there as well, because one of the things that was on the agenda was a motion on the education maintenance allowance. So there's all sorts of people up there in the public gallery.
Why did you go along? Why was it important for you?
Well, I'm just always interested in what goes on in my in Cambridge, where I live, and there's all sorts of important things being discussed, and all sorts of interesting subjects.
So what happened then? It was shortly after the petition for the Lion Yard loos was handed in that it kicked off, was it?
Yeah, the petition was presented by the campaigner Jerry Bird, and we were just about to hear Councillor McGovern, the Liberal Democrat, explaining why he'd made the decision to close these toilets. As soon as he started to say that one of the reasons was that it was made financial sense for the council, somebody threw a paper aeroplane down from the public gallery, and somebody else shouted out that he was putting profits before the interests of the people of Cambridge. And at that point, the mayor decided, first of all, to have one person ejected. Then she decided to have a whole row of the public gallery ejected. And in practice, then what actually happened was the police and security came in and cleared the entire public gallery.
And what do you think to that action?
I think it was a massive overreaction, really. They could have dealt with it an awful lot better. They promised a lot of us that we would be let back in as soon as they dealt with some of the protesters who were actually causing a problem. But that didn't happen. They just threw everyone out on the street. And it was only quite a few hours later that the council did reopen their meeting. And so there were about 40 people in the public gallery to start with, and when they actually got down to debating their budget, there were only 4 or 5 of us up there.
Okay. I mean, throwing anything at councillors from the public gallery, albeit a paper aeroplane, isn't acceptable. So it was that minority that ruined it for everyone else, wasn't it?
It absolutely was, but there was probably there wasn't any need to completely close the public gallery. And also they brought the police in. There were 7 arrests. It was all done. I think the big problem was that the police, the security, the mayor, everybody was really prepared for something to happen. So as soon as something relatively minor happened, a small heckle, a paper aeroplane, they put their plan into place and they threw everybody out. So I do think they overreacted.
Richard, and what happened to... you still there, Richard?
Yes, I am.
Oh, okay, sorry, it sounded like you dropped out. And as far as the discussion over the toilets, how did that end?
Well, I didn't get to hear it. I was...
you were outside, were you?
I was outside, yeah. Well, what I do know is they put it on hold pending an equality impact assessment. So at the moment it's on hold, and they're going to look into how it affects disabled people and others who will be particularly or who might be particularly badly affected by the change.
Okay, Richard, good to talk to you this morning. Thanks for speaking to us.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Last night, because we're hearing reports about arrests, and this sort of all kicked off during this meeting when the petition for the loos was handed in. We heard a report from somebody who went just as an observer, not as a protester, and felt that the whole situation was dealt with as an overreaction, really, by the councillors and the police and those people, those officials who were present, and felt that they weren't allowed to really take part. How do you think the situation was dealt with, and what happened in your eyes?
I mean, I'm afraid that people sitting in the public gallery, Jeremy, are not there to take part. They're there to listen to the council proceedings. If people want to take part, we have a lot of procedures by which they can do that. They're really welcome to do public questions and so on and so forth. I want to say that I think the Mayor, Sheila Stewart, who's just a first-rate mayor that will be familiar to a lot of your listeners, I think handled it beautifully. She gave the gallery many warnings. She, with great charm, but firmness, asked them several times to, explain the situation, asked them to let us conduct our business. Because, we were doing something really important last night. We were setting the budget for next year. and asked them to respect the proceedings. And in the end, I'm afraid the gallery, really broke out into a very sort of noisy and disruptive situation. And she asked them to leave. I think she did the right thing.
Is that your view as well, Lewis?
Not quite, no. I do think it was a difficult situation, and the meeting had to be temporarily interrupted because we couldn't continue, but half the people in the public gallery were there with absolutely no other intent but to listen to the debate. And what happened was everybody then got thrown out of the building and locked out. And of course, a number of people, including a couple of people there to listen to the disabled petition, ended up going home. They couldn't stand out waiting for half an hour or an hour. So I think it was a difficult situation. We appreciate that the mayor had to stop the meeting and sort it out. But at the same time, there were people then excluded, and it was a public meeting. I think the least that could have been done would have been to offer people the opportunity to come down into the main part of the council chamber. There was plenty of members of the public there as well, and they weren't ejected. So, yes, the mayor did have a difficult situation. She did rightly stop the meeting, but it was then the subsequent action of the security people excluding everybody from the building that was wrong.
And how much further did we get as far as the discussion on the changing location of the loos? Okay, go on.
Can I just say the public, in fact, were brought back in later on?
No, it was an hour later, and there was only two of them came back in.
Can I finish my point, Liz? We were certainly advised that it had been efforts had been made to try and, if you like, distinguish between the disruptive and the non-disruptive people. But it had been impossible to do that outside the Guildhall. When that became possible, the public gallery was reopened.
Okay, well, our listener Richard missed the conversation about the toilets. Did we get any further with the discussion on the future of the ground floor loos at the Lion Yard?
The position of the Lion Yard loos is that the relocation of the main street, the multi-purpose toilets to the first floor, has been the subject of various meetings in the council over the years, and councils on both parties have approved the principle of moving the toilets to the first floor. I mean, what is different this time round is that there's been a proposal not to have separate disabled and family facilities on the ground floor. And we believe that we must take that out to consultation.
Well, I think we've also got a point on that.
And really understand what different users think. And the disabled people who came to us last night were very clear and articulate about that. There's obviously wide public concern about that.
Okay, and what's your view on this, Lewis?
Well,
continue looking at.
It's a travesty to suggest that Labour councillors haven't resisted this. We've resisted the closure of Lion Yard access. We've, at each stage, at each meeting, said that it has to be ground floor provision. So we think that the council's just passing the buck because they're saying it's now the property developer's job to do an equalities impact assessment. We want the council to do an equalities assessment. It's their toilets, and it's on the ground floor. It's where disabled people need it, Sean. Why are you planning to move it?
I don't understand quite, because the council is doing an equalities impact assessment. And,
you said that the developers are doing the assessment.
No, I didn't. I said that the council are doing an impact assessment.
Right. Well, let's see that assessment. And
as I said previously, all previous plans that have gone through the council have put the multi-purpose toilets on the first floor, plus some disabled on the first floor, but also put a separate disabled facilities and family room on the ground floor.
Okay, we'll have to... Sean?
We need to go out to the public and really explore whether that...
Okay, Sean, and see what it's like.
Okay, Sean, Lewis...
People have wanted the disabled facilities...
Sean, Lewis, we'll have to leave it there. We'll have to leave it there. Yeah, it certainly does, and I certainly hope you haven't knocked each other off your Christmas card list as well. Thank you both for joining us this morning.